read over all the paperwork, and review it.
All this for $7.25 an hour?
Raise your hand if you grew up in a low-income or single-parent home.
Hi, my name is Cassidy.
Hi, my name is Chai,
My name is Katie.
My name's Cassandra.
and we're talking about raising the minimum wage from $7.25 to $17 an hour for Pennsylvania workers.
Imagine needing to provide for a family while only making $7.25 an hour. This is the reality for a lot of Pennsylvania citizens. Who is raised by a single mom. I had to work a minimum wage job since freshman year of high school and cover some of the basic needs for myself and for my siblings. But from New Jersey, I could not imagine having to live off of $7.25 when my minimum wage is $15. Raising the Pennsylvania minimum wage to $17 an hour will ultimately aid in lowering the 12% poverty rate.
With the current minimum wage of $7.25, Pennsylvanians are only able to buy the very basic needs. They are trapped in a constant cycle of economic survival instead of financial stability. Pennsylvanians are forced to make very hard decisions and make sacrifices. For example, they are forced to decide whether to buy a full cart of groceries or a full tank of gas. According to WorkRise, a $17 per hour minimum wage increase would increase family annual income earnings by $5,000, and the poverty rate would decrease by 2.1 percentage points to roughly around 6.9 million people, meaning that these 6.9 million people would be able to afford both the full tank of gas and groceries.
Raising the minimum wage provides a direct pay bump to low-wage workers. It helps them cover essentials as well as to feel more financially secure. Now, according to a study done by Social Science Research in 2024, found that a 10% increase in minimum wage reduced the likelihood of household economic struggles by 3 percentage points. This was seen throughout many rural and economic active areas. Here in Pennsylvania, according to the U.S. Census Bureau survey, our poverty rate sits at about 12%. This means raising the minimum wage to $17 an hour can have a huge impact. It also means we will have better access to healthcare, housing, as well as be provided with more financial stability in lower income communities. Beyond just reducing poverty, raising the minimum wage could help close income gaps, especially along racial and ethnic lines. A 2010 study by Labor Economics found that when the minimum wage goes up and stays up, it significantly narrows down income disparities among the lowest earners, meaning, in other words, it levels the playing field. This is especially important here in the US, where income inequality hits marginalized communities the hardest. According to a 2021 report by John Foster et al., the median income for non-Hispanic white households is about $78,000, and for Black households, it's about $48,000, and finally for Hispanic households, it's about $58,000. But income is only a part of the story. When we look at wealth, when we look at what families actually have, the gap widens. Back in 2017, data from the Federal Reserve shows that the typical white household makes about 17 times more than a typical African American household. Overall, raising the minimum wage isn't going to erase centuries of inequality, but it is a meaningful step toward fairness, especially for African American and Hispanic workers who are overrepresented in low-wage jobs and have long been underpaid and overlooked for centuries.
According to Economics Helps, by the gradual implementation, we could reduce the risk of inflation and job loss by spreading out this cost adjustment. The Raise Your Wage Act of 2025 proposes that this gradual increase of $7.25 to $17 would give enough time for businesses to adjust and for their workers to have their benefits. These polls show 2/3 of Americans believe that we should raise our minimum wage from $7.25 to $15.
Now I want you to sit down and really think about this. How many hours would you have to work for $7.25 an hour to even afford groceries for the week? What about rent, or gas, or even textbooks?
Would you be able to focus on school or even your goals if you were constantly worried if you couldn't afford your next meal?
In reality, thousands of people in Pennsylvania live with those questions every single day. People our age, like you, and people like me, and it shouldn't be that way.
If we raise the minimum wage to $17 an hour, we're not just changing numbers, but we're changing lives. So I'll leave you with this. What type of world do you want to create?